Report.
Everything's status quo, sir.
Very well. If anyone needs me, I'll be in my ready room.
Hello and welcome to the Readier Room, the only and longest running Star Trek The Next Generation rewatch podcast. Every week we are watching Star Trek The Next Generation, rewatching it, and then doing a podcast about it being Star Trek The Next Generation. My name is Mitchell Mells, Chief Consultant of Services at Paramount. With me is my life partner Brandon Hobbs, who today I have on good authority is doing well.
You only knew that because I just told you off mic.
Well, I needed my information. You take notes before the show, don't you? I do too. And part of those notes is your general state of mind and well-being.
My disposition.
Yes. I have the weather here, the color of the sky, and your disposition.
Right. Check that in the morning when you get up.
Yeah, it's, before you even get up, I just look at your mood ring, and I know how it's how it's gonna be today.
Right.
It's kind of like a weather forecast, but much more tumultuous.
Oh yeah. I mean, if I'm in a bad mood, it's doesn't bode well for you, does it?
No, and if it's a podcast, we can't even do the podcast on a day like that.
No. I think there's been a couple instances like that where I've just been so angry that I couldn't do the podcast.
Yeah. And during all those times, we make do. We do it the next day. But God forbid that mood ring shows, it's a vibrant red 2 days in a row. Then the ensigns will have to wait quite a long time.
Yeah. Well, it's just Star Trek.
Yeah. Do you think they make mood cock rings?
Definitely. Let's see. I'm surprised we didn't look this up at some point before now.
As am I. This is definitely something we would be very interested in.
In the mood ring, powerful cock ring with 7 vibrations. So set the mood with this illuminated mood cock ring that adds ambiance to any sexual encounter.
Do you think things ever get awkward with the mood cock ring? Like it whatever emotion, excitement maybe would be when somebody's really feeling it, and then they it just something happens and it switches off that color and like, oh, what?
Just
are you okay?
Changes to complete disinterest rather.
Disinterest, yeah. Sorrow, perhaps.
Sorrow.
Some things are better left uncommunicated. Especially through the medium of mood cock ring.
What do you think? What the hell is this?
Go on.
Check this out.
I'll be sure to
for those listening, it's a very odd looking contraption called a Climax Gems blue mood ring.
I'm trying to piece together how one would wear this.
Right. It looks like a Star Trek gun.
It does. I think. Well, first of all, it's got to be for men, right?
I would think.
So I think you would insert one part.
Oh, no. It's. I think it's for both.
My image of this is that there's a bigger circle and a smaller part under that. I think the big circle, your balls go in there, and that puts like this little vibrating part near your grundle. And
right.
Then you slide your cock into the adjacent, not quite a ring, but rectangular prism. And from there, your cock's also getting some stimulation.
All right, can I read this review?
Please.
5 stars. Calls it the Dream Machine. First mood ring I have ever bought. Now I don't know how I lived without it. 10 out of 10 for sure. This thing turned my pecker into a damn vibrating machine. Usually I last 30 plus minutes. Now I have cut that time in half. I now have more free time than I know what to do with. I'm living the damn dream. Buy this thing and watch your life change.
Now, I'll be completely honest. If that's what it does, it is definitely a necessary item. Because, man, if you're lasting 30 minutes, that's just too long.
Yeah.
Yeah,
it's way too long.
You gotta cut that down.
Yeah, I go a good 3 minutes and, get on with my day.
I'm aware. Goodness, that was good. But yeah, I think people overrate generally the value of long lasting.
Sex toys?
All those two.
Oh. Yeah,
But-
I didn't realize that was what we were still talking about.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess so.
Well, it's because you'll be on. Let's say you get to minute 20. I don't know a person out there whose mind doesn't start to drift on what they're gonna have for dinner or what's
Right.
what's kicking on
What's on
YouTube
TV.
these days.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or Star Trek
Usually you're
even.
like, it's absolutely. Yeah, I mean, there's been several times. Well, both you and me, we'll be in the middle of it, and we'll both drift to Star Trek, and then.
Right.
But when you're on the same page, then that's when the role play starts, which is nice.
Someone just calls out Ensign, and things go from there. Now, this compounds the problem depending on what you think about, because if your mind drifts to something less sexy, then perhaps your erection starts to flag, and you're just going to last longer, and you're trapped in this hell of
right. It's like a cycle.
Yeah, it's like just let me jizz, come, orgasm.
Right.
Whoever you are.
Any of the above. Yeah. Especially by that point, it starts getting like really hot.
Yeah.
Which also affects. You don't want to be sweaty.
Your muscles start getting tired.
Right.
Whether you're holding yourself up over the bed or it's your hips or whatever's happening there. It's just. It's a lot of exertion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
it's not even really fun, is it?
No. Nah. Big no. So, sex, wouldn't recommend it.
No. Just keep watching Star Trek, keep doing what you're doing.
The Readier Room has always been an abstinence-only podcast.
Right. Well, there's no other way to interact with the Star Trek audience.
No, there's certainly not.
Yeah, but I don't know. Let's move on to some other news items, huh? We have a few.
This is a big week.
Yeah. We have Jean-Luc Brunel found dead in his prison cell.
Friend of the show.
France. Yeah, well, what people don't know is that, a lot of people don't know, is that in French, the family name actually comes first.
Right.
And the given name comes last. So Jean-Luc is actually Picard's last name. So he's actually related to Jean-Luc Brunel. They're distant cousins.
Which qualifies
so
this as
kind of
being newsworthy for Trek.
Right. It's a big Trek moment.
Where no man has trekked before.
So what do you think? Do you think he killed himself?
I'm always one to take these things at face value. I'm a trusting person. And if you want to tell me that somebody in prison killed themselves, I'd believe you. Here's the thing. If I was going to be put away for life for sex crimes involving minors, which would never happen to me, but if I was, I would seriously consider suicide, as one does.
We're gonna be put on a list somewhere for this one. Yeah, there's no better time to kill yourself than then. For sure. You really save yourself the trouble of being killed by someone else, probably much more slowly.
Right, and much more painfully.
Mm-hmm.
Now, with that in
Probably
mind,
rend your asshole asunder.
With that in mind, we do have to keep in mind that the rich elite do rule the world like their own playground. And
so but
human concepts like law do not apply to them, nor should they.
Exactly. Well, you need people who are kind of above the rabble to make the decisions that people can't make for themselves. So
Exactly, and sometimes you need a bit of a stage play to convince people that the world does function the way that they've been led to believe that it does.
that's it. Sometimes those decisions include raping children.
It's all part of a grander plan.
Yeah, you wouldn't understand. It's all for the greater good.
Exactly.
Like Emperor Palpatine fighting the Yuzon Vong.
Which has really informed my life philosophy.
Basically, I probably make that comparison once a week to something.
Only once a week, are you sure?
It's you can justify anything with it, really.
I think they did that back in World War II in Central Europe.
Is that right?
Yes. That was the main justification. What is it, Yuzon Vong?
Yeah.
Now, are they like a Chinese bug people allegory? Because that's what they sound like.
That is what they sound like, right?
Yeah.
And I'm not sure what they were supposed to be. I don't know. I really don't know anything about them because I'm not a nerd. But all I know is their name and that like they can't use the Force on them. I think they're these weird like green skeletal looking guys.
Interesting. Well, I wonder what makes them so Force resistant, other than the need for dramatic tension.
I think he might have nailed it.
Oh no.
Yeah, they come from outside the galaxy, so I don't know. They maybe the Force doesn't exist outside the galaxy.
Now,
far away?
Is it that the Force can only interact with midichlorian adjacent beings? Is that it?
That could be it. I don't know. I mean, there's midichlorians and everything, so I guess that would make sense.
Now, are they mini-chlorians or maxichlorians?
They're midichlorians.
Oh, they're not like MP3 chlorians.
No.
I see.
Wave chlorians.
Right.
Flak chlorians.
Flacorians.
Flacorians. Oh, we have a new Star Trek race.
Right. They're actually a member of the Dominion, the Flacorians, from the Gamma Quadrant.
They're not members of the Breen Confederacy.
They're not members of the Breen Confederacy. They're not members of my personal brain trust. They're
Breen Trust. So there's no thoughts.
There's no thoughts. No thoughts, no second thoughts. Now, do you think Jean-Luc killed himself? This Jean-Luc?
I could be convinced that he did more than Epstein.
Okay.
I think Epstein was very suspicious. I don't know the details of this one just yet. I don't know if anyone does. I'm not sure. I haven't looked that far into it. I just saw his name and laughed. But yeah, like you said, it's pretty. You can conceive of someone killing themselves for this.
Yeah, it's that's what makes it such an effective ploy.
Especially because there's precedence too, though, because Epstein is dead. This guy who associated with him a lot could have seen that and been like, well, I guess I should kill myself.
Now we're on official Maxwell watch, right?
Yeah, I guess we are. Well, where's she at?
Probably in the Maxwell house, if I had to.
Oh my god. All right, that's enough of that. That was good.
Good. All right, so moving on to the question of the week, which we do every week, where we answer questions on a weekly basis. This week's question comes from Gabriel in France, who says, "Hey Admirals, is there any room in your heart for non-Trek sci-fi? Or are you both one-women men? Thanks for keeping quiet on that accident, Gabriel." All right, that Gabriel, I see. No problem, the appropriate compensation has already exchanged hands, so it's all good. But anyway, not really for me. Maybe you're different, but I don't tolerate that very, very much at all.
Non-Trek sci-fi?
non-Trek sci-fi. You know what I mean? It's like, what's the point? Sci-fi.
I mean, yeah.
You're a Star Wars guy, aren't you?
Yeah, I like Star Wars. It's good enough.
I'm not
But
sure
yeah,
about
I mean,
that.
non-Trek sci-fi.
If it's good enough, I think it might be below that bar. But
Well, nowadays, I suppose.
yeah. But I, don't know, I tried watching this show called Space Force recently. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, with Steve Carell
Yeah. All right. So
and friend of the show Jimmy O Yang.
that's right. Also, John Malkovich, who remains in his perpetual state of being John Malkovich.
Being John Malkovich. Yeah. That's right. Well, what did you think of Space Force?
I hated it. I fucking hated it.
Did you actually watch it?
I did. This isn't a bit.
How much? How much of it?
One episode, which is which is a fancy way of saying as much as I could humanly stand to watch.
Right.
I thought that show was so fucking terrible. It's obviously it's a comedy. Well, it's a comedy if anybody's not privy to it, but
well, it's a scare quotes comedy.
Exactly. It's not funny, first of all, which is tragic for a comedy, but there's something about the way that it's shot and the way that it's written where there's a lot of like wide angle close-ups of actors who should never be in close-up.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
it was just very baffling to me that was how there was a direction it went in.
So this is it's definitely got, I mean, I haven't watched it, but I'm assuming it's definitely got like Office, Parks and Rec vibes to it, doesn't it?
Yes, but no. It has that kind of day-to-day conversational style in the character interactions, but it's not, kind of going back to the shooting, it's not at all shot the same way, which really gives it a different air, and not in a particularly good way. So it feels like an attempt to go back to that well without really understanding it, and not that those shows were very deep at all, but it just belies a misunderstanding of what was nice about those productions. So
yeah, sure.
I can't, and I'm not. Those shows weren't that great. You can be something different. That's fine. But when you're trying to go back there and you're failing at it, it's just so embarrassing. It's embarrassing in an execution, and also that somebody wanted to do this creatively, that they couldn't make something new.
I wonder if there was any creative force. What was your favorite joke from the 10 minutes you watched of it?
Oh, I watched the entire first episode.
Oh, okay.
Which was 35 minutes, about. Longer than a syndicated show by a good margin, but or a network show, I should say. I can't recall a joke that I liked. I know there had to have been one, but it did not stick with me.
Shame.
I
could have written that down.
I liked when Steve Carell used a fake gravelly voice because he's playing an over-the-top military guy, and he did that for the entire episode.
Oh, that's great.
I liked the terribly clumsy satire that the show is nestled with. It's all
why? Because it's like a military thing.
Well, it's a military under Trump thing. There's a lot.
Yeah. I guess right.
There's no direct reference to Trump by name, but it's a lot of the POTUS was tweeting this and tweeting that, and the impetus for the show, which is the United States space branch of the military, is that the president of the United States is just clamoring to have, quote, boots on the moon. That's a repeated phrase that they go back to many times in the first episode. And the idea is like,
the thing is, like,
Yeah.
That could be such a funny concept.
Yeah, but it's not focused on being humorous as much as it is focused on being satirical, which
Right.
are obviously somewhat related, but the idea isn't that it's a clever bit of writing. It's just, oh, in this show and thus our real world, the president's kind of a buffoon, which is like
The president's silly. Yeah.
which is very low hanging fruit, and
It's super low hanging. I mean, I don't know. Like, Trump definitely did something to comedy while he was in office, and I mean, even after, where people think that pointing out ridiculous things in real life is funny, or like they think. I mean, I phrase that poorly, but they think they can satirize something that's already a parody of itself.
Right. Just saying this is ridiculous is not.
It's not
inherently
comedy.
funny or anything.
If I wanted to laugh, I could have turned on the news and watched Donald Trump speak.
Right.
Like that's funny. You looking at the camera and saying that just happened in response to it is not funny.
Well, part of the reason,
in fact, it's enraging.
Part of the reason, or the entire reason, Trump is as ridiculous as he was, is that it was happening in real life. That you had to take that moment to be like, oh, this isn't fiction.
This is our reality now.
Right. Whereas when it's in a show, it's like, okay, fictional characters acting larger than life. That's kind of what I expect for a fictional character.
Yeah. But I do like the idea of something as obviously capital intensive and labor intensive as a space force. I like the idea in fiction that there's this group of people who basically have to expend all these resources and all this money just on a whim, and watching them grapple with kind of being tugged around.
Yeah, but
it has potential as a concept, which is even sadder.
The way that they decide to take it is that the main character is incompetent and doesn't realize his incompetence. Basically, the same character that Steve Carell played on The Office, but because of that, it's all sincere. It's not those characters dealing with the absurdity of their situation from the higher ups. It's more of just, oh, I'm the leader of this. I must be really important, and I'm not understanding that this is a complete joke.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah,
yeah. That kind of character needs to be like someone sent from headquarters or whatever, who's like almost an HR kind of person.
Yeah.
But they're like beholden to some degree. But he's not like the leader of the mission or whatever. Like that's just stupid.
Mm-hmm.
That's asking for exactly what you're seeing in the show, which is just nonsense and garbage. But
which is kind of a good subtitle for Space Force: nonsense and garbage.
So you would say this is not good sci-fi?
I would say this is not good sci-fi. I hated it.
Yeah. You know what is good sci-fi? Farscape.
Yeah? Now, is that the one with the Stargate?
No, that's Stargate. This is the one with the Farscape.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
Now
I could see where you get confused.
Yes. Who is Far, and why is his cape so important?
Far's cape?
Yeah.
It's I don't know. I'm not going down this. That was too easy for you.
But in all seriousness, what do you dig about Farscape?
Oh no, it's just really good. I think I talked about it like a few episodes ago.
I don't really listen when you talk, so
yeah, I'm not surprised. No, it's just really good. It's like the antithesis of Trek, where you have a crew that they're all criminals for the most part, and there's like one human guy who gets teleported into this galaxy full of aliens and stuff, and they don't get along with each other. They all don't trust each other, and there's really good Jim Henson puppets actually.
Interesting.
And
so it's not just guys with weird noses.
Yeah. The makeup and stuff is pretty decent, and it's there's like overarching plots, I guess, but what I've watched of it, which isn't a ton. I've only really watched some of the first season. It's mostly episodic, and it's like the overarching thing is like these guys like coming to trust each other or whatever, but they still sort of hate each other. So there's a lot of like little shenanigans where they do things just to spite each other, which is nice to see in a sci-fi show. It's a little less clean and dry as Star Trek is.
Yeah, it's certainly nice to not have everybody is everybody's best friend all the time.
Yeah.
Now, have you?
It is worth watching.
Have you seen that episode of TNG where Picard and Riker both end up on a smuggler bandit vessel, and Picard is undercover as a smuggler? And
I mean, I definitely have, but I don't remember this now.
Well, the reason it kind of has that vibe to it of this crew of people who just don't trust or like each other, and them accomplishing whatever mission they have. So you might enjoy revisiting that one. We will eventually, of course.
I mean, we will.
Yes.
Whether we like it or not, unless one of us dies soon.
That is always a possibility that I think about often.
Yeah.
In fact,
I think about it too.
It's kept me going throughout some times of struggle where like, I'm really in poor health, but I want to talk about the next episode of Star Trek, and I find a few more days somewhere.
Yeah. I just can't wait
to be king.
Yep. There it is. All right, let's go talk about Star Trek. Thank you, Gabriel.
Yes. This might be one of the longest preambles we've ever had.
Yeah, probably. Oh, do you want to plug the Readier Room account?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I should. If you have a question like Gabriel that you want us to answer in our Question of the Week segment we do every week where we answer questions from viewers, then please send us an email at thereadierroom@gmail.com. It's with a capital T and 2 capital R's. Or you can tweet at us at the Readier Room, or even DM the Twitter account. And I have it on good authority that perhaps in the future we might even have an account on the gram to field some questions if anybody out there uses that app.
Yeah. As long as our producer can find the time to do some work.
Deign himself to get on the fucking gram where we need him.
But we'll be sure to let you know.
Yes.
Okay, so this week we have the Defector.
Yeah.
We have the Defector, written by Ronald Moore, who came on with the Bonding. This was the first draft. We have Robert Shearer directing. He did Measure of a Man, Peak Performance, and The Price, one of our favorite episodes.
This is quite the pedigree.
Yeah. This was a good episode. This was it's funny coming off of the previous episode where it was mostly just people sitting around and talking. And this episode is also just people sitting around and talking, and it's a million times better.
It is.
What do you think?
I haven't thought about this enough to say it concretely, but I wouldn't be surprised if this ended up as one of my top 5 or top 10 TNG episodes. I really liked it.
Wow.
More likely top 10, but I thought the episode had a ton of strength to it, but the tension revolving around the titular defectors' motives, I thought was really gripping. I thought that character himself was very well written and well acted, and this is kind of why this and First Contact episodes, Prime Directive episodes, are why I enjoy TNG as much as I do.
Absolutely, yes. I totally agree with that. And, saying that, I guess it's not too far-fetched for this to be one of the better episodes of the series as a whole. This is the kind of episode where, like, if I turned on TV as an audience member and saw this episode, like, this would have hooked me on the series.
Oh, yeah.
Immediately. It's so good, and it really continues to lend credence to the idea that bottle episodes are the best.
You can't distract anybody with a bunch of special effects.
Yeah. There's no little set pieces. It's just people on the ship having to deal with the problem. And it's really, really, really good. It's unsettling in all the right ways, and it's actually got a hook to the conflict that makes you want to think about it. You know, as you're going through the episode, it's asking you. There's no dramatic irony here. It's asking you as an audience member, do you trust this guy? Like, what would you do? You know,
which is very important.
Yeah,
because how many times? I think the last episode we watched, they had that moment of dramatic irony that just sapped the entire.
Absolutely, yeah. There's no more mystery left in an episode that really needed it because nothing else was going on. But what was I going to say? It's really important to have the audience be kind of an active participant in the story, and they do a really good job of kind of swinging you back and forth on the issue of whether or not to trust this guy.
Just worked so well, all of that.
Yeah, it was really good.
I liked how appropriate. How do I want to put this? They gave an appropriate amount of gravitas to the idea of a war. You know, a lot of times in Trek fiction, but Trek especially, it's easy to hand wave the implications of the conflicts that they either get into or allude to. For example, the last time they encounter Tomalak and there's that that standoff, you don't really think about what that could lead to. It's just, okay, here's two spaceships, maybe they're going to blow each other up. And there's a little bit of that in this one. Yeah. But when all the characters are talking about the ramifications of what they're doing, it's not their lives that are really at stake more so than just everybody on either side of that proposed conflict. It's what it's what motivates the Defector. That's what Picard ruminates on. It's appropriate and it's nice, I think.
Yeah, this episode really had a sense of scale that you would get from maybe a Borg episode.
Yes.
You know, it's not just the Enterprise that you're worried about. It operates on that scale for most of the episode. There is a little part I take umbrage with near the end, but we'll talk about that when we get to it, I think.
But unlike a Borg episode where the threat is more otherworldly, science fictionist.
Sure.
The idea of a war and avoiding it is very easy for us to conceptualize in our world.
Yeah, sure. The Borg are a little more abstract.
Right. So because of that, it just hits home a little better.
Yeah. It hits different, as the kids would say.
It hit different.
It do hit different. I thought James Sloyan as Jarek. Jarek, is that how you say it?
Jarek.
Jarek. Yeah. I thought he was pretty good.
Yeah,
what did you think?
I thoroughly enjoyed his performance. Maybe I'm going by Trek standards, I don't know, but it was good. I enjoyed the scenes in which he featured heavily. Yeah.
There was that scene in 10 Forward where he has this little monologue that felt a little Rutger Hauer-y. In Blade Runner.
Yes.
the Tears in the Rain thing.
Yes.
But I liked him quite a bit. It was nice to see him. He comes back as Alexander, future Alexander, later on. So that's pretty cool.
It is cool.
Were you happy to see Tomalak again?
I enjoy Tomalak.
I like Tomalak too, and he kind of goes underused. Like they could have used him a little bit more throughout the series because this is the last time he shows up as Tomalak himself.
Right. It just works better for me when the Romulans, or really any alien race, has a character that stands for them rather than just being it's the Romulans, they're evil.
Mm-hmm.
It's Tomalak. We have a history with him. He
totally
acts like this, whatever. There's a lot of that in Trek where it's just races instead of characters that are antagonists.
Yeah, I never really thought about it that way, but you're totally right. This series probably could have benefited from more character representation for each race.
Yeah.
Where it's like, okay, we have a Klingon episode. Who do we want to pull out? Or do we want to put, maybe it can be someone new, but would this character, lend something to the story that a character we don't know would not? And I guess, ultimately, yeah.
That was one of the things that the Klingons specifically, that they did well. I think it's the next season 4 where there's that whole plot about the succession of Klingons. And
it gives honestly the whole race a lot more character to it.
Right.
Too.
And that guy who ends up coming out on top of that, I forget his name. Because he's such a great character. But he shows up every time that the Klingons feature heavily, and if he doesn't show up, they allude to him. It's like, oh, what does this guy think about this situation?
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. And he shows up in Deep Space Nine too. It's just consistency.
Oh, wow.
And it's world building.
Another episode of the Readier Room, another reference to Deep Space Nine.
These are... you have to realize TNG and Deep Space Nine form a symbiote circle. What happens to one of them happens to the other.
You must understand this. But yeah, that's cool.
Yeah.
Why don't we go through the episode?
What, I forget.
Or did you have a question for me?
A trivia question?
No. You were just about to say, how does
the episode start? I was thinking, in preparation.
Oh, yeah, it starts with the holodeck scene.
Yes. Okay.
Which just to preface this, Patrick was very unhappy about.
Hated it.
if you remember. He despised this. Basically, this was going to be one of our Sherlock scenes. Remember?
Yep.
We'd been kind of amassing letters from our Sherlock fan, and we thought just for the safety of the cast and crew, we should probably throw him a bone once in a while. But we still couldn't navigate the right situation after I think it was Elementary, My Dear Data, where we kind of got slammed for it. We still didn't figure that out, and it took us a very long time to. So we had to replace it with something, and it was kind of a free for all. And I remember, I think it was the first or second day of filming, because we still hadn't even ironed it out by then. Patrick approached Rob Shearer, with the idea of having this like Bond-esque action set piece starring Picard, guns and explosions and car chases, that kind of thing. Now Brent, who was at the time, he was talking shop with Rob at the moment that Patrick had approached him. His eyes just lit up, and he looked Patrick right in the eyes with the biggest shit-eating grin I've ever seen him make, and he said, why not Henry V? And Rob really liked that idea, and so we ended up doing Henry V. And shooting that scene was interesting.
It certainly was. You just, once you know exactly how far outside of Patrick's purview Shakespeare tends to fall, it gives all of that another layer to it.
Yeah, people don't really, he's a Shakespearean actor, of course, but people don't understand how much he despises Shakespeare.
It's just a role,
Yeah.
It's like imagining everybody on TNG who worked on TNG just loves sci-fi, right? It's just a job.
Right, but watching him throw little temper tantrums caked in that makeup for that scene was incredibly rewarding, for lack of a better term. It's seared into my mind. It was certainly fun. It was very funny. It took a long time to get through those scenes, though. But Brent was really excited to be doing something legitimate, right? Like Shakespeare.
You don't think Brent always does legitimate roles.
Like something that's not an android on a pulpy sci-fi TV show. You know?
Yeah. I thought that
Um,
Android on pulpy sci-fi TV show would be the pinnacle of one's career.
Well, it was the pinnacle of his.
Hey, he's not finished yet. He's waiting for his big break. He was in Independence Day.
He'll be in Picard season 3.
He'll be in Rush Hour
Brent
3.
Brent is good. He does a good data. He does a good job.
He does.
I don't want to go too hard on Brent because he's one of the better ones.
Let's also plug his YouTube channel, which we're both big fans of.
Yeah, the real Brent Spiner.
Exactly. He's got some Curb vibes there.
Yeah, yeah. He does his little Curb TV show where his character of himself raped a woman or something.
Character. Now,
I was pleasantly surprised that the beginning of it, because this was entirely accidental. The filming of this scene, and it goes on to relate to the rest of the episode, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's a nice little serendipitous moment.
It's nice. It's nice.
Yeah, it's it doesn't always work out like this. Sometimes
no. In fact, like at least 50% of the time, it doesn't.
No, and whenever it comes back around, loop in on itself, looking Ouroboros.
Yeah,
you just kind of feel like you're treated to something. You know, an actual heady script, kind of
a well thought out TV show,
right? Instead of a juvenile affair,
right? One thing. I mean, as an audience member, you watch this holodeck scene, and it's like Patrick is playing two parts, which is very jarring.
I don't know if in universe they said base this guy off Captain Picard's appearance.
Oh yeah, maybe, they could have, but there wasn't enough context provided for the scene because Picard is standing there watching Data perform, and then once he speaks too loud, the other characters try to kill him. Like, what was going on here?
They're programmed to follow the script, kind of. They won't follow it if they think someone else is there.
Yeah, but like, what did he sneak in? Did they not really? They didn't think very hard about this.
It's just strange.
But yeah, so I guess the whole conceit here is that this doesn't really end up relating too much to the rest of the episode, but Data's trying to learn about the human condition through Shakespeare, which Picard says there is no better way than Shakespeare to study the human condition, to paraphrase him. Yeah. I don't think that's true. And he tells this really bothered me. He tells Data not to imitate people. But I think you'll agree with me when I say that the creative process, when you're just starting out, you have to imitate people.
Yes.
The imitation is the very first step of becoming good at something and developing your own style.
I would say imitation is involved in the human condition, even beyond creativity.
Sure, yeah. Absolutely. So Picard's insistence that Data not imitate the people that came before him is ridiculous. And it almost speaks to whoever wrote that line, just how they seem to have never created anything. I don't know. Or I guess it was just a slip up, maybe. But it's still a very stupid line.
It is. I don't think they thought about it that much, other than we need Picard to give Data constructive criticism on this.
Right. Yeah, I guess it could have just been a throwaway thing, but it really hit me. While we're on the topic, Data actually we had our first customer for our little advertisement.
Yes.
Campaign we were doing here.
We put out those ads in all the magazines.
For those who don't know. Yeah. We had magazine ads. We had billboards even. I don't know if we had TV commercials.
No.
But I would imagine most of our audience wasn't really, either they weren't alive back then or they weren't cogent. They weren't adults, so they wouldn't have noticed this. But yeah, we had this advertising campaign around the production of season 3, where you just paid a flat fee, and Data would say your name or the name of your company in a season 3 episode. You couldn't really choose. We would just have to work depending on when we got your payment or whatever. The issue for us, or more the producers in the studio, is that no one really saw the utility in it at the time. I think we were ahead of our time, but
that was before Fiverr, before Patreon, before anything.
Right. Yeah. So no one really thought it would be good for business to have their name or the name of their company mentioned on an episode of Star Trek, of all things. I guess the cost was a little prohibitive. There's only so much airtime we have, so of course we couldn't have too many people signing up for this. But we were very happy to have Kenneth Branagh be the first to sign on this episode. Data mentions him by name as an actor he has studied, and we actually had him on set one of the days, and he's a really pleasant guy.
He was actually pretty lucky in that we had a way to fit his name naturally into the script. So it,
very, very serendipitous, isn't it?
It is. Second serendipity count at 2 for today. The original idea was that probably over the end credits or the opening theme or just during fade out before commercial, Data would, or Brent, I suppose, would just say the name apropos of nothing.
He would just shout it.
Right.
And it would have like a little echo effect.
Yeah, so it would be Pet Boys, whatever.
Yeah. Or we'd attach the name to like an ensign, and Data would yell at them. Ensign
Perfect.
Denny's.
But in very unnatural ways of it showing up. But in this case, it figured right into the events of the plot, or at least that
it was
scene.
Nice.
Yeah, and he was very happy about that. So good job, Ken.
Good job, Ken.
You really nailed it.
At least one Ken is doing a good job.
Right. one out of 30 million is not bad.
Yeah, so then Picard gets called to the bridge. Well, they all get called to the bridge, I guess.
Data takes off his little hairpiece.
Yeah, oh my god, that stupid little hairpiece. That was I can't believe we didn't mention that yet. Yeah, that was stupid. There's this really cool leitmotif going through this episode. Mm-hmm. Did you notice this?
I did not.
The music?
I did not.
I thought it was exceptionally good.
So is it just
loved it.
Is it just a recurring little bit, or does it signal anything?
It's literally the entire track is I feel like it's the only piece of music in the entire episode, but it gets repurposed, like they'll up the tempo and add drums or whatever to it when it gets like intense or whatever. It's really, really good. Maybe it's just me, but I thought it was.
No, I mean
it's almost.
It's cool.
It's almost got like a creepy vibe to it too. Like they could use this in an episode, like a psychological episode, and it would have been like really creepy. It just sounds very, very Trek to me in a way that, like we were talking about before. This episode really represents what Trek is like. I think the music in this episode really represents what Trek should be as well, and what drew me to it to begin with.
I regret not paying closer attention to it.
Yeah. I mean, what are you gonna do? Most of the time, the music isn't like it's not bad, but it's a lot of the time it's like kind of standard stuff.
A lot of the time, it is bad.
You think so?
Yeah, it certainly has its moments of badness.
But like you said, I tend not to pay attention to it either. But yeah, I just want to mention that. And so yeah, they see a little Romulan shuttle being chased by a warbird. Is that what they call them?
Yes, because Klingon is bird of prey. The Romulans are warbirds.
We've been through this. I forgot.
I had to stop and confirm for myself. But yes, you're right. It is a warbird. Yeah. And the little ship is calling out to the Enterprise, I'm seeking asylum, help me. Mm-hmm. And they do. Now, there's a lot of like, sure, one ship shoots the other ship. That was a tongue twister. But they get the guy on board, and instantly everybody's very suspicious because it's a Romulan, whatever. I enjoy Worf's general hostility to him. I enjoy Worf's general hostility most of the time.
Right. It's really cool because we get some echoes of the episode with the Romulans on the planet with Geordi.
Yep.
Where Worf didn't save that one Romulan's life. You get Crusher giving him a meaningful look in medical bay. But yeah, so they talk to this Romulan in the meeting room, and Frakes is incredibly hostile. Riker is incredibly hostile. I mean, Frakes is always hostile, but Riker is incredibly hostile here. In a way that really sets the tone poorly for discussions to happen. But
first officer, no big deal.
Yeah. And this Romulan says he's like basically a pencil pusher,
a logistics officer.
Yeah,
I remember that.
He's a sub lieutenant,
right?
Not a dom lieutenant.
They were very clear on this.
Very clear, and yeah. So they take him to his room, I guess.
And I think there's at one point where he remarks on Worf's demeanor, which I really enjoyed.
Was that before? Did they send him to his room before or after sending him to medical bay? I guess after, huh?
Yeah, I think he goes to medical bay, then to the meeting room. Maybe, I'm not sure.
No, he goes to the meeting room. This is a retarded conversation. He goes to the meeting room. Because they try to take him to medical bay, and he's like, "This is urgent," and so they take him to the meeting room, then they take him to medical bay, then they take him to his room.
Okay. At some point in this chain of events, Worf. Of course he's hostile to the Romulan, and he leaves, and the Romulan kind of wryly chuckles and says he likes Worf because he understands him, and that leads into a commentary on how people like Worf, with their prejudices and hatred or whatever, are likely the ones to be responsible for the war that's on everybody's mind in this episode. And
sure, yeah, that was good.
I thought that was good for a few reasons. One, just because, it's reflective of the human condition in some ways. Mm-hmm. But also because it's a clear criticism of one of the principal characters of the show that holds a lot of water and is more insightful than I would typically expect of
definitely
this show.
That's why I would say I liked it as well. And it does a good job of juxtapositioning.
Juxtaposing.
Juxtapositioning. It does a good job of juxtaposing this character that you don't trust, but you agree with him in this one instance, obviously. Against this main character you do trust, but is, like you said, he has his negative qualities.
Right. He's in the wrong.
Yeah, and so again, you have this suspicious character, but he's saying things that make sense. So it's kind of twisting your perception of him a little bit.
Exactly, and that's really what you need when the thrust of the episode is on how much the audience trusts him. They're already predisposed to think he's lying. Give him some positive traits and insight, and moments where the audience agrees with him, things get a lot less clear. And then, of course, as the episode progresses, they introduce different clues and such as to his true intentions.
But yeah, in this case, it's really. I mean, I guess I didn't really think about it too hard at the time, but it's a really good line. Yeah, it's really good. And I wish they cared this much more often.
TNG has had different moments of I don't want to say brilliance, but of higher level competency, such as this, and it is refreshing, and it's the kind of things like this that really endear this episode to me, and to speak so highly of it as I did before.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, okay. So he goes for a med bay. Then they take him to his room.
Then they walk
where
into his room.
he struggles he struggles with the Celsius system.
Right. First, he orders a drink in the Romulan standard temperature measurement, which
Oinkians, right?
Well, okay. We're gonna rehash this. There was a ton in the episode. He says Onkians, but there was a ton of debate on whether it should be Onkian or Oinkian. You know, like a pig.
Yeah, well, I mean, some drafts of the script said Oinkian.
Right. And Oinkian had its proponents. I remember Gates was very steadfast that it should be pronounced Oinkian. When asked why, she brought up the Romulan pig connection in her words. The Romulans look like pigs. And I didn't understand that at the time. It took until, when was it? It was Picard? Maybe Picard season 2 for me to really get what she was driving at. And now I feel a little embarrassed because I was on the Onkian side, and now I'm kind of coming around to the Oinkian side.
Well, I mean, you don't really have a choice, do you?
No.
it's basically fact now.
Well, you know how stubborn I am. It's just who I am. I can't help it.
Yeah. I mean, when we discovered when we discover in Picard the origin of that system of measurement, there's really no argument that it should be Oinkians, right?
Yeah, it's just hard to look back at your younger self and realize that you were wrong, and more importantly, that a woman was right.
That's very true. It's very, I sympathize. It's happened to me as well in terms of Trek stuff, and I'm sure we'll run into this issue again.
Got to be careful.
Yeah. So Jarek. Is it
Jarek
Jarek or Jarok?
I think it's Jarek.
Okay. Jarek sounds like a Star Wars character.
It sounds like that guy from Mortal Kombat. It's over,
yeah.
Jarek.
Jarek Shinnok is dead. Yeah. Oh my god, it does. That's really distracting. There's this scene where Jarek sits down, and he pulls something out of his pocket, and
a disc.
You think? I mean, yeah. Eventually, at the end of the episode, you learn that it's a phalodazine chip.
Right. A poison.
Yeah. So you put it in your mouth. I guess you either chew it or it dissolves or something, and it kills you. I do want to note that is actually the prop itself is just part of a giant pack of Smarties we commissioned, basically just for this exact purpose. Alan wanted to provide a little bit of meta commentary by using a candy that actually just made you want to kill yourself. So that was kind of cute. But he pulls it out and I don't know about you, but I'm thinking like, oh, this is like some kind of weapon or tracker or something.
Right. Well, that's part of the episode's tension.
Yeah.
That's, you don't know what it is. You don't know what his intentions are. So, it's another part of it that makes it tick so well as it does.
Yeah.
God bless him.
You might have better notes on this episode than I do. I should probably take better notes, so I might rely on you for the rest of the order of events.
I think the next part was the end credits.
Does anything happen before Picard gets his video message?
I think they might have deduced that the ship following the scout ship was tempering its speed, so it didn't actually catch up to it.
That might actually have been after that, because that's when you realize the bridge has a sky roof.
Yes, the most important revelation of that scene.
Have we seen that before?
No,
I feel like we have. No, we haven't.
I don't recall.
That's so weird.
In some respects, you need to take better notes. In others, you need to take worse notes. If this is what you're coming away with.
I was really fascinated by that. It makes sense. I mean, if you're stuck on a bridge with, there's only like one big window in the front, you kind of want some more
more window.
Space views, I guess. Yeah.
Now I
Maybe
struggled.
they can open it up and stick their heads out.
I struggled with this. Is it appropriate to call those things a window?
As opposed to what? I guess just a pane of glass.
You think it's made of glass on the spaceship?
Okay, a pane of fibro synthol.
Well, it's basically the thickness of a wall, just translucent.
Okay.
It's not quite
Sure.
a window in the same sense. Can't open it, right? Can't just pop it open for a breeze.
Does a window need to be opened?
To be a window, you mean?
Yeah.
Is this philosophical in nature, this question?
An opening in the wall or roof of a building or vehicle that is fitted with glass or other transparent material in a frame to admit light or air and allow people to see out.
Well, it's certainly not air that they're trying to get in here.
It's even if it could open, it's definitely not air. I don't know. I think you can easily call it a window, and you're fine.
I don't know.
We're gonna have to agree to disagree on this one.
Yeah.
This is too philosophical of a debate.
It is. But, eventually Starfleet does get its hat in the ring. They're sending messages to Picard. They have a very Family Matters-esque Admiral pop in. And, that actor for years, I think to this day, he still has first Black Admiral of Starfleet on his resume.
I mean, it's quite the position.
Role that meant a lot to him. Now, with those messages, I also liked the content of those and heightening the tension of the episode.
Sure, yeah.
Just the very blunt, where he says to Picard, "This is going to fall on your shoulders to deal with this situation."
Right.
Was incredibly realistic, I suppose, and also grave in a way. It just played to the seriousness of everything that was going on.
Yeah, I totally agree. And, obviously, like we said, when the scale becomes this big, bigger players are going to have to get involved. And it's nice to see Picard having to deal with, even though that wasn't really the point of this episode, it's nice to see him having to deal with his superiors. Because usually he's kind of like the one making the final decision. The buck stops with him. So yeah, it's cool to see how he interacts with powers that are larger than he is. The one thing I don't understand is why do they have to send video messages?
That is weird, especially when they're not calls, they're video messages, as you said. There's no benefit to it because you can't respond to it in the moment.
Right. When we know they can video call very easily. Maybe it's a matter of distance. Maybe the reception fucks up like Skype or something if you're too far away.
In universe, perhaps, but truly what it is a logistics issue for filming. And I won't hear otherwise.
No, it was a stupid decision. I mean, considering he talks to this admiral again in a future episode, and it's a video call, so it doesn't really make any sense. I did want to note, I almost forgot. We have the quote from the original opening of the Readier Room.
Yes, we do. I was wondering if you would notice that, and you did.
Of course.
Did it catch you a little off guard?
Yeah, it did. I was not expecting it to happen here, but I almost forgot about that.
See, your notes are just fine.
I also want to note there's once again no fish in Picard's tank.
Right. Well, that has its own story of because the fish tank was used pretty.
Oh, I guess there was a reason.
Yeah.
This time
it featured heavily in filming of the episode. Unfortunately, in a deleted scene, but there's that moment around this time in the episode actually where Picard calls Worf into his Readier Room, and we as the audience never see what happens in there. But what we filmed was that Worf would go in, and Picard had to ask him for Klingon assistance. But the idea was that the Klingons that they were asking were Klingons that Worf had beef with for whatever personal history reason, and Picard would have to struggle to ask a great thing of Worf. So Picard would kind of stand up and look out his viewport,
Right.
and he'd be like, "Oh, Worf, it's being a leader is a difficult thing." He's having this whole serious talk. Meanwhile, Worf in the background would accidentally puncture the fish tank on Picard's wall. And he'd have this whole "I Love Lucy" moment of like trying to plug it in increasingly ridiculous ways. The idea was that it'd be this kind of physical comedy scene to add some levity to the episode, and
Right.
didn't make it in. But I will say that Michael's performance was surprisingly good. Quite the
Michael might be suited for slapstick.
After seeing that, I would believe it entirely. I recommend anybody check it out on the Blu-ray because it's on there. But
yeah,
great scene. And but
yeah, it's really a shame.
The whole point of this is because of that we couldn't get any fish in the tank because then they would be in danger.
yeah. It would have been a whole animal rights abuse thing that we weren't willing to pay for. So
exactly. But had jumping forward a bit, because that scene was cut, how do you feel about the Klingon assistance being what saves the day when it's never really alluded to otherwise?
Oh, it didn't make any sense to me at all. It took me a good minute or two to realize, Worf went to go talk to the Klingons.
Right.
Because there is also, I guess we must have done this retroactively or something, but we managed to fit in a scene on the bridge it passes you by very quickly, where Picard tells Worf to go talk to some Klingons.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
But it really, like, if you're not paying attention, you're kind of like, whatever.
Yeah, I think it's technically set up, but in the most the most
sure
unintentional, I don't even know how to put it. It's just unnoticeable way possible that it's barely a setup and just comes across more hokey and cheap than anything else.
Right.
Now,
yeah, I do agree with that.
Granted, the resolution of that particular conflict wasn't what the episode was about, so I don't think it's a big deal.
Yeah, sure.
But it's just very Deus Ex Machina, I suppose.
It's glaring in an episode that was otherwise so tight. That's all.
Yeah. Well, everything's going to have some flaws.
Yeah, sure. There's also Picard calls a lot of people into his Ready Room this episode. There's a scene where he calls Data in.
Loved it.
And he wants him to set up a Class 1 probe. And here's a line that I was kind of confused by. Set the sensors for maximum scan. As if you wouldn't want a probe to maximally scan something. I'm not really
just scan a little bit. I want to know some of what's happening.
Make it a little mysterious for me. I like games.
Don't ruin my surprise, Data. Not with this probe.
And then he wants Data to be like a chronicler of things that are happening, so that history may know why this war was potentially started. If he wanted to do that, he probably should have started from the very beginning. But
yeah, I mean, choosing that particular moment, whatever. But the idea of Data serving as the quote from the episode, this objective viewpoint for history, I thought was a compelling idea.
Sure. I guess.
Yeah, and that's also another heavy moment that pays lip service to what a war is and all the costs of it. It's like this isn't something that the characters are entering into lightly, despite them doing that in many other episodes. And it was nice to just see that acknowledged.
Yeah. One thing I take umbrage with here is that we missed out on the opportunity to make Picard and Data kiss so that we could explain why he's having dreams about him in Picard season 1 all the time.
Well, cut content is
Cut content.
Cut content.
Picard. Data leaves the room, and Picard says, "If these men do not die well, it will be a black matter for the king."
Hmm.
But what do you think that black matter was?
I think that was an unintentional reference to Black Adder.
Oh, it will be a black adder for the king.
Right. Which is also something from Europe, much like Jean-Luc Picard.
Sure. And Jean-Luc, whatever his name was.
Valjean.
Jean-Luc Valjean.
Yeah. Oh, baby. Now, okay.
Data...
Yeah.
Okay, go ahead.
Data... I was going to say Data has a moment with Jarek in 10 Forward.
Oh, he does, yeah. He does. Yeah, that was cool.
Yeah. I enjoyed the general feeling of hostility from Jarek. It's easy to write Jarek more sympathetically, or even have him play at sympathy, where he's betraying or down talking Romulus and hating on his former comrades or praising the Federation or whatever. But, he just comes in and he's just kind of an obstinate jerk about everything. He's like, oh, this fucking Federation ship sucks. Wish I was on Romulus, looking at the firefalls of Cromulus, whatever it is.
Cromulus. the cromulent waterfalls.
Yes. But no, it's written very realistically, where he's just a principled guy who did something he didn't really want to do but had to, and he still is very in love with his home and his people and his race.
Yeah.
Which I enjoyed that portrayal quite a bit. And a lot of that comes
different.
out in this talk with Data.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's there's no real drama to it. He doesn't get angry and then storm out or whatever, which I kind of expect from Star Trek. But he just sits down and talks to him calmly, and then they go on a little date.
Right. And that serves as his motivation in a lot of ways, because Data recreates Romulus for him, and he gets a renewed sense of what this was all about.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Which then prompts him to reveal his true identity as a general instead of admiral instead of a logistics officer, which ultimately comes back around again later on when he takes the final step of pledging to tell Picard everything he knows about tactics and ship specifications and such.
Yeah, and it's the little that little diversion where he pretends to be a rank he's not makes a lot of sense for the episode, because if an admiral defected to your ship, I feel like it would draw a lot more attention from Starfleet immediately.
There's that,
and events would have been different.
He also would have been immediately pressed for all of the high top level secrets that he did not want to divulge. That's too. Which is consistent with how it's written in the show. And it also works because this guy's hiding his identity, so audience won't trust him. B, he's not giving up secrets of how their ships work or whatever. Again, audience doesn't trust him when ultimately he turns out to be trustworthy. All of these things just work together so well to increase the tension the audience feels on whether or not to trust this character.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. He has quite a few interactions with like a lot of the crew too. We didn't mention the Riker and Troy.
Do you know why we didn't mention that?
Interrogation. Because it was useless.
Well, I was going to say because it was irrelevant. Irrelevant.
Troy does nothing. This is her one job, and she does nothing.
Yeah,
which I guess falls in line with the rest of the show.
I think she says he's hiding something, or there's something he won't tell us, which is an amazing. Really? Once they've already decided to do an interrogation, it's an amazing bit of insight.
Yeah. Riker does ask him a lot of irrelevant questions. Irrelevant questions.
Well, he does, Riker, that is, kind of acquiesce to that,
Yeah.
The way that that's portrayed is that Jarek is very consistent in what he's telling Riker and Troy. He says what he needs to for the mission that he stated, and everything else is irrelevant. Because Riker is kind of playing at topics that aren't about the issue at hand.
It's probably some advanced interrogation technique.
Just to fuck around with things that don't matter.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it.
I think it actually is.
Well, I'm no master interrogator.
What
do I think of what?
You're a master instigator.
That's true. That's very true.
What did you think of his scene with Picard in the Readier Room after he reveals his identity?
I liked it. I liked how it went for both sides. They were both consistent unto their characters, especially Picard, who really was not at all moved by that guy's emotional motivation.
Yeah. For once, Picard is actually consistent in a situation like this.
Yes, which perhaps might mean that he was written inconsistently. If, but yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed it. It was a nice way to resolve the kind of the mystery of the episode, because at that point, once Picard decides to trust him, so too will the audience.
Yeah, and you get a little bit of an emotional outpour that was kind of like the show was dangling kind of in front of your face a little bit until that point, and then it's finally like, okay, here you go. Here's this sympathetic moment for this character. Instead of, like you said, instead of doing that early on and writing him as an inherently sympathetic character, you just get this little brief glimpse,
right,
of I guess I would say humanity, Romulality. From him.
I think the worst version of this episode, instead of pulling out the Fibrosian chip, he pulls out like a locket of his daughter's face.
Yes. Oh my god, that and you know that had a chance of happening too.
Oh yeah,
that's absolutely something Trek would do. Oh my god, I yeah, that's you got me heated now.
In heat.
This I do want to say it got me in heat. I do want to say this scene has my personal favorite bit of cut content.
Okay.
Of which there was quite a bit in this episode. We had to cut a lot for time. There's an extra bit of dialogue when he's telling Picard about his daughter, and he says, "Let me see if I can get the." I have a few of the scripts here, the older ones. He says, "I will never see my child smile again. She will grow up believing that her father is a traitor, but at least I will not have to suffer the indignity of handing her off to another man for his sexual pleasure." Which I thought was incredibly deep.
It was easy to relate to.
Yeah. It really, you get the sense like we're not so different, you and I. And
Picard would have gotten that sense too.
Sure, yeah, it could have been an entirely different scene with that, but alas.
The cutting room floor makes fools of us all.
I do have to mention this. We have a scene with Data and Geordi with their pants down. Not those two characters with their pants down, but the phrase "with their pants down."
Yes, more classic Data.
Just how we mentioned last episode, they had really done a good job of making these kinds of scenes work. This one is stupid.
I'll say
it is again the point of the scene.
The only positive I can say about this is that it furthers the rapport of Geordi and Data, who are explicitly friends.
They're ostensibly friends.
Yeah. Whereas otherwise it's the middle of work talk, the middle of a mission, the middle of some important scene, moment where Data fucks around with idioms.
Right. Yeah, I guess.
Not to say that it worked, or that it was pivotal or vital to the episode, or even good, but I do like it just a little bit more when it's between these two, because I can believe them having more casual moments together.
I agree. more casual moments with their pants down.
Yes. I mean, if you've ever caught Brent with his pants down, you know how casual it can get. Some people just let themselves get caught, you know?
Oh, got a motorcycle outside or something.
Well, I couldn't hear it.
Yeah. They do. And we had a few of those.
Indeed. Now, after this, I think it's when the climax of the episode happens. They go to that point, and I guess we haven't really said this yet, but the Defector, the whole point is that he is saying that there's a secret base of that Romulans are making in the neutral zone that's going to be pivotal in their invasion of Federation space, and the Federation has the Enterprise has the choice of whether to go and investigate it, thereby entering the neutral zone and instigating war themselves, or ignoring it, imagining it's false information, and not risking anything. And that's the decision. Mm-hmm. So now that Picard trusts Jarek, because Jarek is going to give him all this private information of Romulan information, they decide to go. They go, and there's nothing there. And everyone's having this moment where it's like, oh my god, it was a wild goose chase. Jarek himself looks beside himself with confusion. He's not cackling or anything, which is weird for Trek.
yeah. You really do expect him to be like, it seems I fooled you. And it's really great that didn't happen. Yep. Yeah, it was all the Romulans. Jarek had been
used,
basically demoted, right?
Yeah,
for the past few months, and they fed him incorrect information to test his loyalty. I guess.
And with all due respect, they nailed it.
Knew. Yeah, that's the thing. It could just be that they knew and they just wanted to enact this plan the way it happened. But yeah, he was used. Tomahawk gets the jump on the Enterprise with another ship.
Yep, they're there to spit roast them.
And here's where I have just a little bit of an issue with this episode.
Oh yeah.
Tomahawk says, I'm going to destroy the Enterprise and put its remains in the center of Romulan Square.
Yeah, it's fractured hull.
Yeah, and so it's at this point that the conflict becomes like galaxy wide. It goes from galaxy wide to, okay, what, they just wanted to blow up the Enterprise?
Right. I think that more specifically, this would be the first conflict of the war. And they would blow up the Federation's flagship, which would, of course, lead to further conflicts. Now,
I suppose so.
What I'm not sure of, and what I was thinking about while watching the episode was, would they have known that it was the Enterprise specifically that was going to pick up the...
Yeah, that's another thing, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess, yeah, maybe not.
It doesn't matter into how the events of the episode play out, but some of the dialogue does point to that it was always the Federation. I'm sorry, that it was always the Enterprise that was going to be involved in this.
It feels a little bit like Saturday morning cartoon villain at the end here.
Yeah.
Like, you'll pay for this, Enterprise, So that wasn't, I don't know if I really like that too much, but it's not the worst. It's not the end of the world. It doesn't necessarily, I mean, you can work your way around that.
Right.
It's whatever. Do you want to note that Worf does say sensors?
Which, we're big fans of here.
Big fans of the sensors. I wanted to mention, and this is going back quite a bit to after Jarek confesses to Picard.
Mm-hmm.
We get a shot of the meeting room, and the crew's just all in there like mingling or whatever, and then Picard walks in, and then they all sit down, which I think is a very rare sequence of events.
It is.
Know what I mean?
It is, and it looks stilted.
Yeah.
It's like a meeting they don't want to have. They're taking their last moments of relaxing, and then shit, the meeting's starting. Whatever. When really, all their lives are in the balance here.
Yes, yeah, that was kind of weird. But I don't know. I liked it in theory because we don't usually get to see that kind of scene.
Right.
So
it is true to life, but it's true to life in that people will fuck around before meetings.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So jumping forward again.
Glad we got that in there.
Yeah. The Enterprise manages to escape with the help of some Klingon.
Deus Ex Klingon.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Jarek kills himself.
Right.
And he writes a letter to his wife and daughter that can't be delivered.
And then everyone praises his courage, despite treating him like complete shit for the entire episode. Even when they were trusting him, even when they decided to trust him, they treated him like shit. And then he kills himself, and suddenly he's a hero, which is how most suicides go.
It's like the kid in high school who killed himself. Yes. And every Stacy's writing on his Facebook page like he was such a great person.
If we had more people with his courage, then this.
If we had more people with his Klingon guile.
There was something I was just thinking about at the end here.
Star Trek?
Oh, I always thought every time I watch this episode, it's very unfortunate for the Federation that they couldn't get literally any of the the Romulan secrets out of him before he killed himself.
Well, they did, didn't they? He gave them like schematics of like warbirds or something, didn't he?
No, I think they said that he was going to. Like, he's prepared to give us all of this. He's going to give us this. And
he just didn't.
Yeah, either that or he did, and it just never figured into any future events, which is obviously also possible.
Yeah, that is kind of unfortunate.
Yeah, very convenient for the show, at least.
Mm-hmm.
But inconvenient for the characters.
Yeah.
And that's the end of it. That's the episode. End. Yeah. Quite a good episode.
I think our opinions have changed at all. It's really good.
Yeah, maybe I like it more. But I have rewatched this episode a few times, incidentally, before watching it for this. And it's an episode I thoroughly enjoy every time. I think I said I also rewatched the Vengeance Factor accidentally sometimes and really not been into it. But this is one I enjoy every time.
Yeah.
Which is really something,
it's
given
really great.
Given how much of its tension revolves around the Jarek's motives and enjoying it despite knowing how that's going to resolve.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, it still plays well. It's definitely at the top of the list, like you said. All right. I have a question for you, I guess.
I have an answer.
So, Jarek's suicide note.
Okay. I knew this would be in the Apocrypha. I knew
will eventually be returned to his family in the short story called Suicide Note. In the Pocket title. TNG book, The Sky's the Limit. So in Suicide Note, who returns the note?
Okay. Is it a character I know? You wouldn't ask.
A character you know.
Okay.
It's a main character.
Getting big Wesley Crusher vibes, because Wesley Crusher's dad died in war, and this guy did. I'm gonna say Wesley Crusher.
Wesley Crusher. No.
Damn.
No.
Damn.
I'll give you one more.
Okay. Well, it's not Leslie Crusher. I'm gonna rule that one out.
Yeah.
Who would be interacting with a Romulan? No way it's no. I was gonna say Frakes. There's no way it's Riker.
Okay. I should probably mention this is set between Star Trek First Contact and Star Trek Insurrection.
Okay, that means nothing to me.
Sometime after Deep Space Nine and the Pale Moonlight.
Is that a real thing?
Yeah.
Damn. I'll just say Picard.
Yeah, it's Picard. Good job.
Okay, second try.
Good job. You get half a point for that.
Silver
half
medal.
A star. That's all the information that's on Memory Alpha about this. I wonder if it's on Memory Beta.
Betazoid? Memory Betazoid?
Memory Betazoid. Look at this Betazoid. That is what it's called, Memory Beta, right?
You're asking the wrong guy. I don't think there is a right guy to ask this to, but I am the wrong one.
Suicide note. Here we go. Nope. This Memory Beta has to be the worst wiki of all time because it has basically no plot summaries at all.
What does it have? Nothing.
It has lists of characters, starships that appear. It's stupid shit. Apparently, it takes place 8 years after this episode.
Okay. Picard's still alive. Cool. Maybe we could get a Memory Beta editor to guest on the show.
Yeah, we should. We can really hold their feet to the fire.
Yeah, hold the fire to their feet.
Maybe it's just the issue that no one reads Star Trek novels, so no one's there to actually tell us what it's about.
Are Trek fans literate by and large?
Yes, they're literate, they're bi, and they're large.
Okay.
Well,
phew. That's gonna about do it. I gotta compose myself here. Geez. Yeah. So, okay. That's this episode of the Readier Room. Signed, sealed, and delivered to you. Join us next week for another episode of the Readier Room. Want to remind everybody at home that the Readier Room is lovingly sponsored by Denny's, home of the Grand Slam, moons over Miami. Pep Boys, home of the 3-minute oil change, and you can drop our name at any of those fine brands' locations and get up to a 15% discount, depending on how ready you look on that given day to the cashier. They're authorized up to 15. That's going to be it. I want everybody to stop by again, join us in our neighborhood, and until we see you again, everybody, please stay ready.
The troublesome little man-child.
I stand before you defrocked, condemned to be a member of this lowest of species.
Thank you, Ensign. Engage.
Do you consider yourself superior to us?
Should have told him to mind his own damn business.
But I stroked the beard thusly. Do I not appear more intellectual?
Computer, freeze program.
Have you never dreamed of climbing inside the bottle?